Hi, and welcome to Smarter Workspaces. My name is Jason Moulden. I'm with Crestron Electronics. I work for Crestron in the role of a technical director, focused specifically on unified communications and enterprise accounts. The session today is the case for Smarter Workspaces, or how to go about creating smarter workspaces for your organization. This is a topic that I'm very familiar with. Many years of audiovisual work have now moved over into unified communications. And as we see the evolution of our workspaces, we also see the need for these rooms to be smarter, to take on additional functionality, and really to provide a better experience for our customers. Through the session today, I'll go through some major topics. We're going to speak in detail about platform-enabled rooms, how to leverage the cloud as your partner, and finally, how to harness some of that audiovisual technology to create a better experience or a better solution for your users. In the first section, I want to introduce the idea of a platform-enabled workspace. The concept here is we have a room, has the ability to communicate or tie directly to the platform without needing a user laptop to run a meeting. There's a certain link between the room and the platform. It has an identity within the platform. That also leads to some other functions. We have the ability to create a consistent interface from room to room. Not every room is custom, and a typical concept we'd have with the workspace. And we can also leverage platform-based tools. Many of those tools are being used to manage users. We're also going to take that same technology and leverage it in conjunction with our meeting spaces. A number of reasons for change in this environment. We've seen in recent months significant growth in the use of collaboration tools. We've seen a transfer of ownership. Rooms that were previously managed by audiovisual teams or real estate teams are now wholly owned by IT. And lastly, a consolidation of technology is also leading to a reduction in the workforce. We don't have those separate teams anymore. The room lends itself more to the IT realm and therefore is managed by that respective team. With that, let's introduce the concept of a Microsoft Teams room as that platform-enabled room. So in this case, I'm taking that Teams experience that we're used to from a desktop level. Now I'm bringing it into the workplace. The components that make up that room are very straightforward. We have a compute device, which is handling our Teams interaction. We have a user interface that provides ease of use, the ability to press one button to start your meeting. And then we also have certified peripherals for that best quality experience. At the heart of our systems, the compute device is running Windows 10 IoT Enterprise, so it's going to be well suited for any of our collaboration spaces. We have a few things we can lean on there as well. We have a general acceptance of the Windows operating system in these environments already. We have familiarity with the skill sets required to manage or manipulate Windows, and also consistency with the corporate standards that may roll in as well. So you can see for all those reasons, the idea of bringing a Windows-based device into the meeting room will have good success. For the interface, as we walk into the room, start to operate, the idea is that we've consolidated many of the things you'd have in a meeting invite, and we've brought them to a singular interface. So it's very easy to follow. Walk up to the screen, touch one button to be able to join the meeting. Audio starts, video starts, your image is up on the screen. And that's the only thing you need to do to be able to start the meeting. One important note with the user interface, as I mentioned, we have consistency between room to room, but more importantly, think about familiarity with users and their desktops. We've had a number of users in recent months learning Teams software or migrating from something else and starting to use Teams. Icons that they're familiar with every day that appear on their personal device will also appear on the room console. So very easy to operate, and we can shorten those training cycles based on that consistency. We move into the peripherals, the traditional audio video space of the room. It's important to know there's a dual purpose or two different things that are happening. Not only are we looking for the best possible audio visual experience, but there's a certain amount of intelligence with these spaces. Cameras, for instance, we have great optics, but more importantly, we have the ability for those cameras to be used to count individuals in the room. They can also provide an automatic framing function. Think of users walking around the room. You don't need to operate the camera. It will automatically keep individuals in frame. Think about microphones. Yes, we're picking up audio and passing it to anyone else that's on the other end of the call, but we're also listening in the background to determine, does someone have a microphone turned on a laptop? Can we provide them detail to create a better possible experience? And for audio output, the ability to provide the best possible situation for voices from the other end in terms of how that's presented, but also how to properly present audio from a personal device in the room, playing a presentation from a laptop or whatever it might be. Those are some key reasons that platform-enabled workspace is critical to creating a smarter workspace. When you think about the user interface driven by the platform, our point of emphasis, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the third section, point of emphasis has changed for design of our spaces. We're taking the complexity of a meeting invite, simplifying it, turning it into one button. And most importantly, data's moving in and out of the room. We're bringing data into the space, obviously for communication and conferencing, but we're also providing intelligence or other details about our products out to create a better possible experience. In our second section, I want to highlight details regarding cloud interaction. This may seem a little bit of a strange topic in comparison to understanding or day-to-day use of cloud technology, but when it comes to meeting spaces or workspaces, it's a little bit of a foreign concept. We want to be able to report our data, export information out to the cloud, but more importantly, we need an active partner to be able to send updates to the room, remotely control the room through the cloud. Those are the components that we really want to hone in on in terms of building this partnership. And lastly, export the data. So many different data points are being pulled. We have audiovisual data, we have occupancy data, all kinds of different elements. We want to make sure we're able to move that out of the room so it can be mined or used for other features later. In the meeting room space, perceptions about the cloud vary. But if I had to take one out of the group, it would be the idea that the cloud is used for storage. It's a backup, and it's not the dynamic environment that it can be that will really help us enhance these spaces. And so we start to think about applications that are built on Microsoft Azure to help us accomplish that function. And I'm going to speak in detail about an application that Crestron leverages in these rooms called the Crestron XIO Cloud. This particular application is built on Azure. We have a long history of using this particular solution, awarded a Partner of the Year based on our work in this category. But the idea is that we have this very active presence working with us in the rooms. And I think of it as another individual on the team. The cloud is our team member helping us to manage these spaces and create a better experience. The general workflow or the reference architecture for XIO Cloud as follows. It's a little bit deep, but a couple key items to look for. In the cloud services category, note that we're using cold storage, obviously, for the data backup, but also the warm store to be able to pull information out and take action. And look at all the other components that you see in terms of pulling the intelligence from the devices, moving it out, pulling it back in, being able to provide alerts and updates and reports, but also to break down and even get to the point where we can control this room remotely through the cloud. We can authenticate through the cloud to be able to reach the room. It's a novel concept, but it really is needed in order to get the best out of these spaces. Some components that we may use in the rooms. We think about our cameras, mentioned a little bit earlier. Think about camera intelligence. Besides the optics, identification. If you look at the image there on the right of the slide, the ability to select or to be able to identify what constitutes a person, looking at images, faces, etc., being able to tell the difference between a book or a pen or a pencil or a coffee mug, whatever it might be. We want to aggregate the data. Over the day, I want to count how many users were in the room. I can have a threshold at that point, and I can say that this particular room has an occupancy of 7 people. Did I have more or less than that number in that room, and be able to send that data out? It's far more data and far more information than just having the meeting. Support for multiple device types is also critical. Many of our solutions, the Microsoft Teams room, will be built on a Windows platform, but many of our peripheral devices that extend our audiovisual functionality may be on a different operating system. They could be on Android. You also might have devices in these spaces that don't have one of those notable operating systems and needs to have another update method. Well, having that cloud component as the partner and working with the cloud to be able to leverage and send those updates down to whatever type of device they are, it's also critical in making sure that we have a well-functioning room. As we look to achieve smarter systems, our devices need to maintain their own health. Via XIO Cloud, we have the ability to review a particular function of a room and potentially even cure the issue before it ever reaches a user. The room can identify a problem, take corrective action, can fix it, could also notify someone to fix it prior to a user coming into the room and having a bad experience. Remote assistance, the ability to see what the user sees in the room, to be able to walk them through operation. Maybe a user stuck on a particular page, doesn't know how to run the room. Think about testing functions. Without having to send someone down to the room to test before a meeting, I can authenticate through the cloud to the room, start the meeting as if I were standing in front of it, and then on my screen or in the room on the other end, be able to pre-test a function simply by authenticating through the cloud to the device and starting that function. Distribution of data. The information we're pulling out of these rooms, as I mentioned, is varied. Different destinations for that information. Might be a single pane of glass type of a view showing current activity. Could be long-term reports to make better buying decisions or design decisions on room based on usage. The ability to move that data out. Obviously, the cloud is a great partner to do so. The data can be moved to the cloud from the room. The cloud can aggregate all the information and then distribute it accordingly. So in conclusion for this section, the real concept we want to think about with our smarter workspaces is having the cloud as the partner and really an active partner in the mix. Two-way traffic. We're not just backing data up, we're sending data out. Could be analyzed and then decisions could be made. Other reports could be triggered. That engagement really will help us build the smarter workspace. Conventional workspaces would have been built on local technology and rightly so, an additional amount of local support that would go along with it. I don't have that ability to think larger or to have automated functionality and have rooms looking to heal themselves. So making the cloud that participant really will lead us to the point where we can enable that smarter workspace. In our last section, I want to detail how we can go about harnessing technology to create an overall better solution or a smarter workspace. When we consider the audiovisual technology required for our workspaces, for our meeting rooms, obviously it will vary based on the room type. Certain rooms will require certain technologies. So it's important we start with some baseline concepts. First, enterprise-grade hardware, devices that can live on the network. When we think of our large-scale management goals and we want to have interaction with the cloud, it will require that our devices can live on the network and are up to the task of handling enterprise-grade security. We need to shift our focus in the rooms. If we previously looked at a design of a room, we would have built the room and then assembled the interface at the end. That process is inverted. Any of our platform-based rooms have their interface defined, and now we're simply augmenting the experience. We also need flexibility. When we approach a room, we need to make sure that we are prepared with technology to maintain that consistent experience in the space and not deviate so that when our users come in, the rest of the technology is transparent. That's really the goal in bringing the solution together. So we change that design focus. Previously, if you were to build out a workspace, many of the questions would have been asked regarding your behaviors or activities. What do you intend to do in this room? Is this a audio conference room? Is this a video conferencing room? Is this a presentation room? The changes in collaboration have led us to a point where there's a baseline expectation for room use that includes all of those features. So rather than focusing on the task, we're now focusing on what do we need to do in order to bring that total experience into the room. I have a small room and I need video conferencing, audio conferencing, and collaboration. What's needed there? I have a large room or a training facility. I have the same needs. So what is the difference and what other technologies do I need to be able to provide that same experience into a larger space? There are some points of emphasis to review as we think about how to integrate or how to harness that audiovisual technology. So we called out a few. I'm going to go through them each in detail. When we think about the control component, the idea of operating our room or our space, automated workflows, a if-then scenario. When we have a press of a button instructing the system to join the meeting, all of the other behaviors or actions that need to occur. Turning on the displays, lowering the lights, lowering the shades, any other functionality we might need in that case to be able to create that experience, all can be triggered. So when we think about control components, we're building out from that native experience and then augmenting with these additional functions so that truly the experience is to press the one button. We can augment our functionality. On the left side of the screen, we have the Microsoft Teams native interface, but if there's a specific function that we need to perform, we can temporarily exit from the Teams interface, make that configuration change, and move back in. We also have assurances that when a user comes in the room, the device will present the Microsoft Teams interface. It won't stay on a separate page. It'll always bring itself back. So we can guarantee the user coming in will have that same consistent look and feel. But it allows us to then find a place for some of those other technologies without bringing it to the forefront or providing confusion to the user. Another category, more traditional category that we'll have is generally the audio video functionality of a system. If we think about the video component first, when we think about huddle spaces or small spaces, sometimes we have limitations in technology. The device can only reach from the table to the wall. I have a certain length cable, things like that. When we think about needing that flexibility to move to spaces, we can rely on enterprise-grade video technology to be able to move the video content around the room wherever it's needed. If you see in the picture, we're looking at a larger classroom, which would not typically be a traditional Microsoft Teams room, but it certainly can be with the right technology in the background. We can connect to different types of displays, whether it be a 2K signal, if you will, or newer 4K capable displays. We can manage and manipulate the signal as it needs to move throughout the system. We can also have inclusions for copyright protection. The conferencing environment doesn't have support today, but certainly we can build a solution or a system that is smart enough to determine that if content protection is required, then certainly a different video path needs to occur for local presentation purposes, or when we're in conferencing mode, the system is smart enough to be able to flag the users and indicate that the solution is not capable of distributing that protected content, therefore it shouldn't be sent. We take the same concepts from video, we move them to audio. Many times, audio is perceived as an art, if you will. And when it comes down to it, we have to remember that the functionality of audio is always built on mathematics and algorithms. And so it's important that we draw those components of the audio experience out. Intelligent microphones based on thresholds and values of amount of data being received can make those intelligent decisions. We can think about new speaker types in the rooms that can live on the network as opposed to having a traditional audio infrastructure. And taking snapshots. We have a room. The room is proven to operate in a certain capacity. We can take a snapshot of the space, and then we have a later comparison so we can determine if our room is deviated from that performance specification that we created. Another element is to integrate environmental controls. If you take a look at the room in the picture, we might have challenges with this particular room throughout the day. Given the exposure and the glass on the side of the room, it might be difficult to hold a meeting or even to have users be seen on camera based on bright lights coming in. So at this point, it's a good opportunity to bring in the environmental controls, the ability to bring the shades down or adjust the lights as needed. It's always critical for these spaces that we think holistically about the area, but we can also make it smart enough. We don't even have to have the controls on the panel. We can build the room smart enough to know based on time of day or based on light exposure, what is needed to provide that best quality experience and therefore reduce the burden on the user to be able to configure the room. We can maintain specific room needs. In many cases, we might be retrofitting a particular space, and if there was a certain functionality that was needed, we can build our room smart enough to be able to accommodate the existing use case, but also adapt to the platform-based solutions of the future. You can think about complementary technologies. It's not just the devices in the room. For instance, if we walked in the hallway, we want an ability to show whether the room is in use or not, identifying the workspaces for ad hoc use, identifying spaces if they've been used during the day. We have a whole new scenario or whole new need for data as it relates to our rooms. And part of making a smarter workspace will be to rise to meet the challenge of the data that needs to be provided in light of the changing world. Other valuable information that a device outside the room can also show. Confirmation. Am I in the right meeting? This obviously room is set up in the case that you can see into the room, but many of our workspaces aren't. If there are no windows and no window in the door, anything like that, you might not know if you're walking into the right room for a particular meeting, but we can have that augmented device that will then give us that confirmation. We can even go so far as to organize and enhance the user experience. In the display here, you can see that we have a device in the table. that cleans up the user experience. You can go a step further. When the meeting is over and the system is no longer used for the day, we can have that device be smart enough to auto-retract the cables back in. So when the next user comes in, everyone feels that they're starting from that golden experience, if you will, the first time user that's coming into the room. We can recreate that every day in these spaces and really improve what the user sees or how they feel when they come in to use one of these particular spaces. So remember, multiple components involved throughout control, audio, video, all these other things. Each of those will play their own part in making that particular location a smarter workspace. So in conclusion for our section about harnessing technology, if we use that audiovisual technology correctly, we can truly enhance and improve that experience that the user will have in the room. The right technology selection, it will adapt to the changing needs, how rooms might be used. And really, bottom line with this particular component, thinking about smarter workspaces, we have an expectation for functionality. And we want to make sure that in order to build that workspace, we are focused on what is needed to deliver core functionality, as opposed to thinking in the opposite direction, because then we have the ability for the rooms to adapt and to grow as needed. So I'd like to thank you for watching the session. It was my pleasure to bring this concept to you. Multifaceted concept and thinking when we think about our platform solutions and how we can bring those into the room, giving the room the identity. Second part of including the cloud and really thinking of the cloud as an active participant, another set of hands working with us on our spaces. And then lastly, using the audiovisual technology that's required for a workspace in the appropriate manner, making sure that the design order is correct, that we're placing our emphasis in the right space.